The rain had been falling for nearly an hour when Keanu Reeves stood outside the entrance of one of the most luxurious hotels in the city. It was supposed to be his hotel. At least, that was what everyone believed. The enormous glass building rose above the streets like a palace, glowing with warm golden lights. Its name was displayed across the entrance in polished silver letters. Inside, wealthy guests were enjoying private dinners, expensive rooms, and quiet music. But Keanu wasn't dressed like an owner. He wore a simple black jacket, dark jeans, and old boots. He carried no briefcase. No security team followed him. He simply walked toward the front doors. The moment he reached the entrance, a security guard stepped in front of him. "Sir, I'm sorry. You can't come inside." Keanu looked at him calmly. "I understand. But I need to speak with the manager." The guard checked his radio. "Are you a guest?" "No." "Do you have a reservation?" Keanu paused. No, the guard looked uncomfortable. Then, "I'm afraid I can't let you in, Keanu." "Glance through the glass doors. I see." He turned to leave. Then, a woman behind the reception desk suddenly recognized him. Her eyes widened. "Wait." She rushed toward the entrance. "Mr. Reeves." Keanu turned around. Before she could say anything else, the security guard whispered urgently into his radio. A few seconds later, another security officer appeared. He looked serious. "Sir, you need to leave the property." Keanu frowned slightly. "Why?" The officer lowered his voice. "We've been instructed that you're not permitted inside." Keanu stared at him. "By whom?" The officer hesitated. "The management, for the first time." Keanu looked genuinely confused. "That's strange." Behind the glass, employees had begun watching. Some whispered, others recognized him. Yet nobody understood why the famous actor was being treated like a stranger. Keanu stepped away from the door, then his phone vibrated. He looked at the screen. One message, "Don't go." Inside, "Something is wrong. There was no name attached." Keanu read it twice. His expression changed. Not fear, concern. He looked back at the hotel. Who sent this? Nobody answered. 20 minutes earlier, Keanu had received a call from an employee named Daniel, a young maintenance worker who had worked at the hotel for several years. Daniel had sounded nervous. "Mr. Reeves, please come here. But don't tell anyone you're coming." Keanu had asked why. Daniel had only replied, "I think someone is being hurt because of a secret inside this hotel." Then, the call ended. That was why Keanu had come. Not for money, not for publicity, not even for the hotel. He had come because someone sounded desperate. Now he stood outside, unable to enter, and then something even stranger happened. A black luxury car pulled up beside the entrance. The hotel manager, Victor Hale, stepped out. He was dressed in a perfect suit. He walked quickly toward Keanu. "Mr. Reeves." Keanu looked at him. "Victor." The manager's face was tense. "I'm sorry, but you need to leave." Keanu studied him. "Daniel called me." Victor froze. For half a second, something flashed across his face, then it disappeared. "Daniel?" "Yes." Victor swallowed. "I don't know what you're talking about." Keanu looked toward the hotel. "Then why won't you let me inside?" Victor stepped closer. "Because tonight isn't the right night." Keanu's voice remained calm. "Why?" Victor didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward the security cameras. Then he whispered, "Because if you go inside, people are going to lose their jobs." Keanu stared at him. "Maybe they should." Victor looked away. And that was when Keanu noticed something. A young woman standing near the lobby entrance was crying. She was holding a small cardboard box. Inside it were several personal belongings. She looked directly at Keanu, then silently shook her head. "No, don't. Ask, don't get involved." Keanu understood the warning, but he also understood something else. Whatever was happening inside that hotel had already gone too far. He turned toward Victor. "Give me 20 minutes. Victor's eyes widened. 20 minutes for what? Keanu answered quietly. "To find out who needs help." And before Victor could respond, Keanu walked away from the entrance, but he didn't leave. He crossed the street and waited because he had a feeling the truth was about to come outside. He was right. 5 minutes later, the crying woman walked out of the hotel. She looked around nervously, then approached Keanu. Her hands were trembling. "Mr. Reeves." Keanu nodded. "What's your name?" "Maria. What happened?" Maria looked back at the hotel, then whispered, "They're blaming the wrong person." Keanu's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Maria opened her cardboard box. At the bottom was a small envelope. She handed it to him. "I was told never to show this to anyone." Keanu opened it. Inside was a single photograph, and the moment he saw it, his expression completely changed, because the photograph wasn't about money. It wasn't about the hotel. It was about a child. And suddenly, Keanu realized that the mysterious message on his phone had been only the beginning. Keanu stared at the photograph. It showed a little boy sitting in a hospital bed. He looked no older than 8. Beside him was a woman Keanu recognized immediately. "Maria." Keanu looked up. "Who's the boy?" Maria's eyes filled with tears. "My son." Keanu's expression softened. "What's his name?" "Leo." Maria took a shaky breath. "He's sick." "Very sick." Keanu looked back at the photograph. "How is the hotel involved?" Maria hesitated. "That's the problem." She explained that the hotel had once operated a small emergency assistance program for employees and their families. It had been created quietly, without publicity. Workers who faced serious emergencies could request financial assistance. Maria had applied after Leo became ill. At first, everything seemed normal. Then her request disappeared. She was told there was no assistance available. A week later, she discovered something strange. Several other employees had requested help. Their applications had also disappeared, and someone had been receiving the money instead. Keanu's voice became serious. "Who?" Maria shook her head. "I don't know." "Then why were you fired?" Maria looked down. "Because I asked questions." Silence filled the street. Keanu looked toward the hotel. "Where's Daniel?" Maria's face changed. "I haven't seen him since this afternoon." Keanu immediately called him. "No." Answer again, nothing. Then Keanu noticed Victor standing inside the hotel lobby. The manager was watching them through the glass. His face looked frightened. Keanu crossed the street. This time, he walked straight toward the entrance. The security guard moved forward. "Sir," Keanu raised one hand. "I need to speak with Victor." Victor came outside before the guard could respond. "Please." Keanu held up the photograph. "Explain." "This." Victor stared at it. His face became pale. "Where did you get that?" "From Maria." Victor closed his eyes. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he whispered, "I knew this day would come." Keanu looked at him. "What does that mean?" Victor glanced around. "Not here." He led Keanu into a private office, located behind the hotel. The room was small compared with the luxury surrounding it. Victor locked the door and then he sat down. "I didn't steal the money." Keanu remained standing. "Didn't accuse you." Victor looked at him. "But you were going to." Keanu shook his head. "I want the truth." Victor took a deep breath. "There are accounts I don't control." "What accounts?" "Charity accounts." Keanu's expression hardened. Victor continued. "Someone created a system that moves emergency assistance money through several private companies. On paper, everything looks legal. Who?" "I don't know." Keanu stared at him. "You're the manager." "I know." Victor's voice cracked. "But every time I got close to the answer, someone threatened my family." That sentence changed the room. Keanu slowly sat down. "What did they threaten?" "My daughter's future." Victor looked toward the floor. "Her university scholarship, her medical records, everything." Keanu was silent. Then he asked, "Why didn't you go to the police?" Victor laughed bitterly. "Because the first officer I spoke to already knew about the investigation." Keanu looked at him sharply. "And?" Victor reached into a drawer. He pulled out a small USB drive. "I kept this because I knew someday I might need proof." Keanu looked at the drive. "What is it?" "Records." "Of what?" Victor whispered. "Payments." Suddenly, the lights in the office flickered. Both men stopped. Loud sound came from the hallway. Someone had entered. Victor stood quickly. "Someone is here." Keanu opened the door. The hallway was empty, but Daniel's maintenance cart was sitting near the elevator, and on top of it was a folded piece of paper. Keanu picked it up. 3 words were written on it. "Basement, room 17. Victor stared at the message. "No." Keanu looked at him. "What?" "You don't understand." Victor's voice trembled. "Room 17 was sealed 6 months ago." "Why?" Because of a fire. Keanu looked toward the elevator. Then let's see what they're hiding. Victor grabbed his arm. Mr. Reeves, please. Keanu stopped. Victor's eyes were wet. If we go down there may be no turning back. Keanu looked at him. Victor, someone already took away Maria's job. He paused. They're frightening your family, and Daniel is missing. Keanu released his arm. Turning back isn't really an option. The elevator doors opened. They stepped inside. The basement level was dark. The hotel above them was filled with music and laughter, but beneath it was another world. Concrete. Walls, old pipes, locked storage rooms, and at the end of the hallway stood room 17. Victor pulled out a key. His hands shook. This hasn't been opened since the fire. The key turned. The door opened. Inside was a dusty office, old computers, boxes, files, and one large metal cabinet. Keanu walked toward. Then he noticed something taped to the wall. A handwritten list, names, dozens of them, employees who had requested emergency assistance. Beside each name was a number. Some were crossed out. Maria's name was there, so was Daniel's, and at the very bottom was another name, Keanu Reeves. Victor stepped backward. What? Keanu stared at the list. I never requested assistance. Victor's face went completely white. That's impossible. Then the computer on the desk suddenly turned on. A single file appeared on the screen. Owner access. Confidential. Keanu stared at it. Someone had been using his name, and whoever had done it wanted him to discover the secret. But why? Before they could investigate further, the basement door slammed shut. The lights went out, and from somewhere in the darkness came Daniel's voice. Don't trust Victor. Keanu froze. Victor whispered, Daniel. Then Daniel shouted, Run! Keanu stood completely still in the darkness. Victor was breathing heavily beside him. Daniel? Keanu shouted. No answer. Then emergency lights flickered on. A red glow filled the basement. The door was still locked. Keanu looked at Victor. You heard him, Victor nodded. Yes. Then opened the door. Victor tried. The key wouldn't turn. He tried again. Nothing then. Keanu noticed a small metal box attached to the wall. It contained an emergency release switch. He pulled. The door opened. They rushed into the hallway, but Daniel was gone. Only his maintenance badge remained on the floor. Keanu picked it up. Then he noticed something written on the back. A phone number. He called it. Woman's voice answered. Hello? Keanu asked. Who is this? There was silence. Then she whispered, Is Keanu Reeves with you? Keanu looked at Victor. Yes. The woman began crying. My name is Elena. Where are you? Inside the hotel. Keanu looked around. Where? Kitchen, storage room. Keanu and Victor hurried upstairs. They found Elena sitting on the floor behind several boxes. She was holding a laptop. She looked terrified. I know who took the money. Keanu crouched beside her. Tell me. Elena opened the laptop. Someone created fake accounts using executive authorization. Victor stared at the screen. Whose authorization? Elena looked at Keanu. Yours, Keanu. Slowly understood. The hotel wasn't simply hiding stolen money. Someone had designed the entire operation to make it appear that Keanu was responsible. They had created false documents, fake approvals, fake signatures, even fake video footage. Victor covered his face. If this becomes public, Keanu interrupted. Then the truth becomes public. Too. Elena shook her head. You don't understand. The person behind it is inside the hotel. A sound came from the doorway. Everyone turned. A man stood there. It was the hotel's financial director. Marcus, he smiled nervously. Well, he looked at Keanu. This is awkward. Keanu stood. You're the one behind this. Marcus laughed. Do you know how easy it is to control a company when everyone assumes the owner doesn't care about the details? Keanu's face remained calm. I care about people, Marcus shrugged. That's exactly why you were easy to manipulate. He explained that he had redirected the employee assistance money through fake organizations. He had counted on Keanu staying distant from daily operations, but there was one thing Marcus had not expected. Maria, she had kept copies of every document. Daniel had discovered the missing money. Elena had found the digital records, and Victor had secretly preserved evidence. Marcus's smile disappeared. You should have stayed outside. Keanu looked at him. You should have treated people better. Marcus turned toward the exit, but Victor stepped in front of him. For the first time that night, the manager wasn't afraid. You're not leaving. Marcus stared at him. You'll lose everything. Victor's eyes filled with tears. Maybe. He looked toward Maria, who had arrived with security. But at least I'll be able to look at my daughter and tell her I finally did the right thing. The room became silent. Then police officers entered. The evidence was handed over. The false accounts were discovered. The employees who had been blamed were cleared, and the emergency fund was restored. But Keanu wasn't thinking about money. He was thinking about Leo. The next morning, he visited Maria at the hospital. She was sitting beside her son. Leo looked exhausted. Keanu walked in quietly. The boy looked up. Are you the man from the hotel? Keanu smiled. That's me. Leo smiled weakly. Did you win? Keanu sat beside him. I think everyone won. Leo looked confused. How? Because people stopped being afraid. Maria covered her mouth as tears rolled down her face. Keanu then revealed that the hotel would rebuild its employee assistance program with independent oversight. No secret accounts, no private approvals. No employee would ever have to beg a powerful person for help again. Maria shook her head. You didn't have to do all this. Keanu looked at Leo. Yes, I did. 20 minutes after being thrown out of the hotel, the manager had been in tears, but not because Keanu had threatened him, not because Keanu had demanded respect. Victor had cried because he finally realized something. The man he thought was going to punish him had instead given him courage. Later that evening, Keanu returned to the hotel. The same security guard who had stopped him the night before stood at the entrance. He looked embarrassed. Mr. Reeves, I'm sorry, Keanu smiled. You were doing your job. The guard lowered his eyes. Should have recognized you. Keanu shook his head. That's not important. He looked through the glass doors. What matters is recognizing when someone needs help. The guard nodded. Keanu walked inside, but he didn't go to the executive floor. He walked straight toward the hotel restaurant. Workers were eating dinner. He sat at an empty table. No cameras, no speeches, just a quiet meal. Victor approached him. Can I sit? Keanu smiled. Of course. Victor sat down. For a moment, neither man spoke. Then Victor said, I thought being a manager meant protecting the hotel. Keanu looked at him. What did you learn? Victor smiled sadly. Sometimes protecting the building means protecting the people inside it. Keanu nodded. Outside, the rain had stopped. The city lights reflected across the wet streets. And somewhere in that enormous hotel, people who had once been afraid were beginning to believe something again. That kindness wasn't weakness. That courage didn't always look dramatic. And that sometimes the most powerful person in the room was the one who had every reason to walk away, but chose to stay, because real success isn't measured by how much you own. It's measured by how many people feel safe because you were there.